Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Jeremy. Happy nearly Friday.
Nearly Friday, yes. Pre-record today, but all your favourite items on today's show. London market, technology change, innovation. Start with the news as always, Ben. It's been some big news. Big. Let me press the button. And this week we saw the outage at Amazon Web Services. Big news across the papers and BBC and everything. It really follows on, I suppose, from our conversation last week where we were talking about, or you were talking rather, about the cyber hack, where a company was just sitting within another company for months and months and months, and then could attack it. And that kind of exposed the interlinked nature of the ecosystems that we now operate in. And I think it's quite interesting that it now raises questions in this article here about the UK state's reliance on big tech, because you can imagine if this hit maybe another server, it wouldn't have just been the inland revenue. It might have been a whole host of UK government departments. And I think on the BBC here, just highlighting what we were talking about yesterday, that a small number of errors, even human-made ones, can make widespread and significant impacts across this highly integrated infrastructure landscape that we've got. And I think it's really interesting. I think there was a couple of things. The guy who was interviewed on the BBC said, "Oh, it's a bit of a bad day for Amazon Web Services." I mean, that's an understatement. But it just shows, I think, how not only interrelated but also how difficult it is for organizations to kind of preempt or even plan for these types of. It's almost like if somebody was to turn off the electric in the building. How would you operate? It's that level, isn't it? And I think there was also a quote from the cyber resilience department, or whatever that they're called, where they were saying everybody should have a written down plan of disaster recovery plan written on a piece of paper, just in case all your computers go down. But I think the problem with that is that if you are relying on computer systems that are, let's say, like Microsoft, or just the run-of-the-mill, in inverted commas, technology, and you are not in charge of being able to put those systems back online again, I think it'd be very difficult for a lot of organizations to get back on their feet. Not having a cyber attack, that's something different, but relying on services in order to make your business work, whether that be electric, the internet, or servers with all your data hosted in the cloud or whatever else. So I mean,
I guess I was thinking that I wonder if we'd have voted for all this technology if we knew what would happen a few years ago. I mean, because actually, the semi-serious point is how much time are these organizations now going to spend basically on just going into defense mode, as opposed to what they're supposed to do, which is innovate and make things more efficient. Seems like not a day goes by without these things happening, and they're becoming more and more inefficient. And that's costing them money. We know that's costing them money. I think they said the JLR one is probably 2.3 billion or something, they reckon, as an estimate this morning on the news. Who knows, really, but it's a lot of money from an industry that has had a big run, obviously, in terms of its valuations, but could hit a bit of a wall here if it doesn't really sort out what this stuff is about. And of course, it is at the interface of humans and technology, isn't it? It's like, it's almost like technology for a while believed that we don't really need humans too much in all of this, and now actually they're becoming a kind of an annoyance factor because they keep letting people in, and then there's these people that let in are human beings as well, and they're annoying and costing us a ton of money. Why can't we just get on and run systems? But so I don't know where it ends in a sense, because I can't see that hacking's ever going to stop. Really. No. And it's a clear it's a clear area for fraud, isn't it? I mean, I just have a quick anecdote because I know that your business partner, Phil, wrote a thing about restaurants and digital ways of booking tables. And I said, that's one of the, it's a real problem. And he sort of agreed with me. I then, just to say, booked a restaurant this week for Monday night at the weekend, and it took me to what I thought was the booking system was a concierge service, and they then, without my permission, they charged me £49 to join as a subscription for a restaurant that I'd been to loads and loads of times. Right now, it's either a scam or an error, but luckily my bank saw it and they've reversed it. But my point is that it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You can't use services. It's kind of put me off booking through restaurants now because I'm thinking, oh God, because I have to spend time on the phone, ringing the bank, sorting it out, and and it's only £49, but I don't know what else. And they'd actually set up a recurring subscription for this, without my permission. So that's a tiny little thing, but we multiply that up, and it's really difficult. I don't know what we do. Yeah,
it's quite interesting, isn't it? I was going to bring this up later, but I'll talk about it now. That I was having a conversation this morning where somebody was trying to put together a business case for putting in a piece of technology or whatever else, and I think they got some pushback from the board or whoever by going, well, they wanted to make the business case that this technology would free up people, like we often talk about, to do more value add activity. And they had 2 points. The first thing they said, well, that was exactly the kind of business case that the vendors put forward when they were saying, well, you no longer have to fax things anymore. You can just send an email.
Yeah.
And you'll have massive productivity gains.
Yeah.
And what they didn't factor in is that alongside the email was the internet, and you don't just get business emails, you get a ton of other distracting emails that you don't know about. So you haven't seen those kind of productivity gains that were first talked about. That's not to say that other things, maybe innovations and things like that didn't come off the back of it. But I think that initial business case that we will be able to move people away from walking to a fax machine, putting it in, to doing more value-added work didn't materialize.
Agree. The other thing I saw a kind of funny video about this yesterday, but there was a chap talking about why are these companies all trying to mess everything up, and he was talking about cameras and things and editing software for video. Anyway, he was talking about, he said they just bring out these updates and then they've like moved buttons I've used for the last 3 years, or I've done this and that and the other. And I totally agree with him that who's deciding all this? Who's making all these decisions about all these changes? Well, it's like people you don't see or know. And the more we become dependent, the more those things matter. That you kind of think, well, hang on a minute. Why are you just changing it? You're changing it for no reason. Did you ask anybody? Did you do anything? You just thought, oh, I'll move this button from the left-hand side to the right-hand side and I'll do this and that. And I'm finding this a bit now with things like Microsoft products where they go, your new Outlook is here. Admittedly, they ask if you want to use it. And then there's a few good things. And then you go, well, I can't find such and such, but I can't find where to put a signature in, and I can't do simple things I used to be able to do. This is not because I'm getting old. I am old, but I'm not just because of that. It's literally that they're just changing stuff all the time, and because they can, really.
Yeah.
It's like knobs in cars, isn't it? I mean, most people, I think, like a sort of twiddly knob for the radio and a button for the heater.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually kind of dangerous when you have to look on a screen that's like an iPad and find where the heating is, and then touch, use a touch screen. I think it's just crazy. You need a button.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Absolutely. So we've now launched a campaign called "Don't Change Anything Anymore." So if you want to sign up, just leave a comment on LinkedIn. And YouTube.
I'm going to rename it again and call it "Don't Make It Worse Than It Already Is."
Yeah. Or just run it past me.
Just ask us if we want this. And please don't give us options, because that's another thing that I'd hate. There's loads and loads of options in this. I don't want options. I want it just to work, and just work, not have all sorts of other things with it. Good.
I'm glad we've cleared that up. Let's talk a bit about Marsh, McLennan, Guy Carp, different brands going on here. So yeah, I think we both saw this in the press. Outlined a program aimed at, well, in my article, it's very much a cost saving, £400 million cost saving. And to the point of the last conversation, one of the things that they say they're going to do is use technology and AI to deliver greater.
Well, that'll link well to our last story, won't it? Then that'll obviously save 400 million just like that if they invest more in technology that makes things worse.
Yeah. So the other question about this is what this thing about greater value to clients. Now that is another tricky phrase because
bugbear in it. We hate that.
I mean,
how does that happen?
You've got to be specific about this stuff.
We save money and clients get more. That's always the algorithm that works, that equation. Yeah. Saving money and giving you more for better is.
But there's it revolves around kind of bringing the brands together, which is kind of the angle that you saw, I think, Ben. In not this article. This is very much about cost savings. I think you saw that it was very much focused around trying to bring the different brands under one umbrella.
I mean, they have brought the brand together, which I think is a good thing in and of itself. I don't know how much it's linked into the cost savings, but presumably there is some what they've described as unification here. So the brand, have you got the brand picture there? The logo?
I have.
Boom. Quite nice.
Yep.
It's good. I like that M.
Yes, I want to. Every time I say it, I want to draw an eye on it, so it's like two
things talking
to each other.
What are they?
Birds. They look.
Birds, aren't they, of some kind?
Yeah, long-necked birds with beaks.
In a marsh.
In a marsh.
Could be waders of some kind.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is a nice. I think that's quite a nice logo. That quite modern, fresh, and all that sort of stuff that brand people say. And so they have brought this together, and it is. I mean, just describe what they talking about. In an increasingly, this is the John Doyle, the president and CEO of. It's a bit mixed up. They're still talking Marsh McLennan as they've changed the brand, but anyway, they'll transition, no doubt. In an increasingly complex environment, clients are seeking advice, solutions, and insights that draw on expertise from across our firm, says John Doyle. The changes we announced today reflect the way we continue to bring our company together to better help our clients overcome challenges and find opportunity. Fair enough. I agree with that. Pretty good. Nice to put it under one name. I think there's way too many brand names and sub-brands and descriptions of bits of companies in insurance that nobody understands and can't access things, and you can't find anything. It also is a good big step because, I mean, Aon's just one name, for example, and Marsh has had a whole load of names on not just Marsh McLennan, but they've got Mercer, which is an actuarial kind of consultancy, Oliver Wyman, which is a consultancy strategy, and I don't even know what McLennan is, to be honest. And then they've got Guy Carpenter. So some of these are going to go. So it's not an entirely Marsh sweep. They have still going to keep the Oliver Wyman brand part of Marsh, which is fair enough, I suppose, because Oliver Wyman has a sort of history, heritage. Guy Carp goes though, and there's some other bits, but Mercer goes too. So it's quite a tidy up, and I think this will be good for them and successful. And then they've developed this other business, which is very similar, I must say, to what Aon is doing. Probably even Willis, if I look.
Yeah.
Or WTW, is it? And
I think it's Willis now, isn't it?
I think they've gone to Willis, haven't they? Yeah. Willis Marsh Aon. I mean, they went through sort of a bit of a weird time, those two, but they've gone back to Willis. So this is So that the positioning is important because they're obviously we've got to say, why would I use Marsh and not Willis, or vice versa, or Aon and Marsh? And, because they're kind of similar big global businesses, So this is setting out their stall very clearly. And they're building a thing called BCS, Business and Client Services, which is okay. So I'll read it out again. So BSC brings together the firm's technology, data, and operations teams under the leadership of Paul Bezic, Marsh McLennan's, now Marsh's Chief Information and Operation Officer. And they're a little bit schizophrenic at the moment in their press release, I must say. Through BCS, a data and technology ecosystem. That had to go in there, didn't it? Ecosystem.
You need an ecosystem.
You can see how much time they spent writing this. That harnesses, that's also got to be in there as well. AI, definitely got to be in there. Technologies. And then here it comes, to enhance client outcomes while delivering operational excellence and efficiency. So, fine words, very typical. But I happen to think that going to a single unified brand is a really big and positive step for a company that hasn't been. And I'll give you the example of what was AGCS, part of Allianz, has gone to Allianz Commercial about 2 years ago. Definitely do much better under that in our surveys, and reputation and brand works really well. So good move. And I think this will happen more and more and more. And, thank the Lord for that, because it is quite painful sometimes dealing with all these sub-brands. And what happens often internally, certainly for me, is that we go in and go, okay, so XYZ company, you're not doing that well here in some areas. And they go, yeah, but is that us, or is that the division of X or there? And then you end up just in this ridiculous argument about, well, does this apply to them? And I say, well, the people we're asking don't know that about that anyway. They don't know how your division structure or your internal structure. So how am I going to tell you whether they're talking about this or that or the other? And they say, well, that's that then, isn't it? We can't do anything. And you think, well, great. Well, that's good for you because you're not doing anything, and you should. And to everybody out there, you're just this thing that they have summed up already in one name.
Yeah. I think that is really interesting, isn't it? Kind of how much of this is a response to the reality of the world, It was always funny when we spoke to John Muir, formerly of Willis, then WTW, and he was going, I used to have a really nice email address, and then it was willistowerswatson.com or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's those types of things that are just, I think, aggravating for people.
Oh, yeah, look, God, you work for Apple. It's easy, isn't it? Everybody knows what it is. You go, that's that's pretty cool. You think that's all right, but that's good. I don't want to do that myself, but that's great. And Google and Amazon, and all these big global brands, and there are obviously big brands in insurance, and but they've tended, particularly in the commercial sector, to have all sorts of different names, which is usually because you've got fiefdoms operating, people who run those things and go, well, I'm not changing, just for you or for the corporate structure. And if you do that, I'm going to leave. And then they go, oh, we'll lose their business then, or their book of business or whatever. So there's always that. But I mean, a really good example of kind of bringing all this whole thing together is Howden, isn't it? But now they've got a problem because they are so aggressively growing into US retail markets that apparently wholesalers are now saying we're pulling out of working with Marsh and setting up with Howden, and setting up our own operations in London. So this is a story in Insider, but in a funny way, potentially the brand thing there is kind of backfiring because they're not, they're extending into areas where there's conflicts.
Yeah.
And people are going, well, you can't work wholesale and retail, Howden, in America, which has always been the case. I mean, you get into real trouble if you do that because you're kind of stealing the lunch of the retailers on the ground in the US. Yeah. And so that is a interesting one to watch.
Definitely. Good. Right. Thanks for that, Ben. Always interesting to see how the brands are developing and along which lines. So we can just kind of build on that a little bit to talk about Skyward Specialty to acquire Lloyd's specialist Apollo. This is actually last month, September, but I think quite a few of the interviews have been out this week. Hence, we thought we'd just highlight it. And I wanted to ask you, Ben, whether you thought this was kind of symptomatic of maybe more M&A activity over the coming months and years, or do you think it's just a opportunistic?
I do, and I can't though say that it's evidence yet in the London specialty market because we've actually got more players than we've ever had before. I think, or quite fragmented at the moment in some ways. However, there is another story that's running kind of underneath, I think, all the data, which is that the bigger brands, which we just talked about, the bigger names, almost some of the household names that operate in that market, like Allianz Commercial, AIG, XXL, XL, these, big names, Liberty, so on, they do seem to be really kind of motoring. And I know, and we all know, they're doing all sorts of investment and restructuring and globalizing, and all those things are happening behind the scenes. But at the moment, data-wise, from what we see, we kind of see lots of small businesses. But that doesn't mean that nothing's happening, is what I'm saying, because actually there's so many players, it's kind of ridiculous. And there's a lot that are sort of in the middle with no real clear positioning. And the market pie, there's huge competition because of rates, and because there's huge competition, everybody wants to grow. So yes, I think is going to be, and there's reasonable attractiveness at the moment to investors of this market, this specialty market. So I think that there'll be more of this. This is a deal that was done on one business wanting to get into Lloyd's, I think, and have that from America. And presumably, although Skyward has bought Apollo, basically, Apollo saying, well, we then get the American thing. So there's the complementarity of that is fairly obvious, I guess.
Yeah.
And the business opportunity is fairly obvious, but they talk a lot about cultural fit and so on. So that's good.
Yeah.
Good, I think, because cultural fit is important in these things,
Yeah. I think in the interview I heard, I think they started with that, which was kind of, refreshing, because sometimes in these interviews, they jump straight to the numbers and GWP or whatever. And actually it's about how you're going to bring the organizations together. And I think they've thought about it really deeply, and I hope it's a success.
Yes, and we both know David Iverson is the CEO of Apollo quite well, and or very well. I used to work with David a lot, and I know that he's a very, what can I say? He's commercially obviously very extremely good and a good leader. but I think he's also very, very good with talent and people and the softer skills, I think, within a business. And so culturally, yes, I think it seems to me that is a very important selling point. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Right. Thanks for that.
Good luck to him.
Yes. Good luck. Good luck. Big move. I think it's going through.
And David Adler looking to go for the the Lloyd's Council or something, isn't he? So yeah.
Good. Right. We'll keep you posted about that. So final thing, Ben, I think we had looking at the cat bonds. Huge market gains puts reinsurers on the back foot.
Yeah, this is kind of really interesting, actually. It plays into the question about value delivered by any capital provider at the moment. And I think the face of it, the story is that that after years of prices going up, the insurers, reinsurers have found that their primary insurers who buy the reinsurance are now going to not using them as much, and then moving to these this bond market, which was what they call cat bonds, which was designed as really a kind of backstop, really, for large risks. Which, in a way, in reinsurance is, to be fair, the same thing, different name, and done with a different financial structure, which I'm sure is extremely interesting to people who do that, not me. And so this has changed quite a lot. So these cat bonds have become very important, and are being used by insurers. And a larger share of what those what they're doing is kind of alternative investment managers. So there's also an investment play here as well, because obviously these cat bonds are investments for people, to buy. You can lose a lot of money, because guess what? They're catastrophe bonds. So you could have catastrophic investment.
They would be if I invested in them.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. And AO came to mind.
Yeah. That's it. They look like my financial advisors, those two guys trying to put out a fire.
Yeah. No, they've just heard that you're going to invest. It's just hit the market that you're going to invest in it.
Yeah.
Quick. So what I also think, though, is that this is showing that actually there is a kind of agnosticism about where you invest now. Of course, there's price issues and things like that, but there's less of an adherence to the traditional reinsurers and more of like, we'll go for capital wherever it is, which could be because the market is shifting and changing, and we're kind of moving into a more flexible capital approach. You see what I mean? So you're kind of saying, well, we don't just have to go through the historically proven routes. We're going to go through other things.
So it's almost like diversifying your, reinsurance or whatever you want to call that part of the.
Well, I suppose if you're an insurer and you've always historically said, well, we'll buy, reinsurance, and there's a codependence on reinsurance because, of course, insurers sell reinsurance, right, to clients, and and so on, and also buy reinsurance, which is complicated. It's hard to get your head around how that actually operates in a business, but they do. So there are very long-standing relationships that are important because they're kind of based on trust, and it's a particular world. It's a culture, I think, in reinsurance, and this, to me, must mean that the cultural ties or bonds are breaking somewhat here, and that means that once it starts, I think then everything's up for grabs. And at the end of the day, it's just money. I mean, it's just capital. There's nothing here that's particularly about, you know, people or technology or innovation. It's just investment. It's financial market stuff. So I wonder what reinsurers will do.
Yeah. What do you think is driving that, Ben? Is it insurers, you know, taking that view that actually this is just capital? If we don't have to go down our traditional routes, we can do it cheaper, or we think we might be able to make a few points? Or do you think there's something else going on?
I don't know. I think there is something else going on. There usually is something else going on. I think it might be, and I won't hold to this, but we can talk data jam in a minute where we might do some of this stuff. But I think that there is there's more consideration in insurers now of all sorts of different options, flexibility. What are we going to offer to the market because we're competing and we want to, or we want to just innovate and do different things. And so it may just be, we don't want to just sit down with reinsurers. We want to try something else and go to something else. And the pricing may be advantageous at the moment, of course. But I usually think it's more than just pricing. You know, there's a series of factors you put into consideration, and moving away from trusted reinsurer relationships is a big deal, and into what are potentially more risky things. So I think it is symptomatic of an industry that is really trying to work out. I mean, this is in the carrier business, the insurer business, really trying to work out over the next 5+ years how they're going to deliver value through the broker lens, because, you know, they're heavily reliant on brokers in terms of what clients want. So arguably, and this could be the case, you know, that brokers too are saying, look, we just don't want you just to be one source of capital. We want options, and data, you know, data and linkage, you know, through technology, APIs and so on, is becoming more and more important between, say, a broker and a carrier, so that they can then efficiently, you know, place the risk, price it up, and all that sort of thing. So cat bonds may well be a way of saying, well, that's another option to say that the capitalization of, you know, the underwriting of this risk, if you like, will be part or in whole done by cat bonds. How do you feel about that, client? And they go, yeah, I'm quite comfortable with that. Or the insurer says that. So I don't exactly know, but I do think it's another change in an industry that doesn't change very quickly.
Yeah. Interesting. Right. Thanks for that, Ben. Yes, you just mentioned Data Jam. So next month, we've got our big data analytics, AI and automation conference, which isn't just AI. It's really looking at data and just what you've been talking about there, Ben, kind of the way that organizations are leveraging data, not only to find those operational efficiencies, but I think also to kind of bridge the protection gap, which I think is becoming an achievable goal now. For a long time we've talked about it, but the problem has been actually that we haven't had enough data or in a timely manner in able to do it. So I think there's a bunch of opportunities. I think you know, we often talk about the technology and how people can use it, how organizations can use it, but I think there's also you know, a bigger conversation to have about how this is going to change not only our industry but the industries that we serve. And yeah, we started at the top of the show talking about the interconnected nature of the ecosystem. Let's bring that word back again. And it's how insurance are going to respond and stay relevant as that world changes, whatever, which appears to be ever more quickly or faster.
I think it is. I think data is very, very important at certain parts. You know, well, it's important everywhere, but there's kind of hot areas in the industry at the moment where data is going to be, you know, a significant part of the automation. And who was I talking to? I was talking to I've talked to several clients actually who've talked about, just how in terms of for simple risks, policy underwriting can be done with just your name and address, for example, and that all seems to be now within reach. Which, funnily enough, if you do that, then you open up the route to other products, all sorts of other products. And the other area I think is around claims data, which people are saying, we're kind of beginning to use that much more now to work out in a quite tight market where there are risks that we should have written and could have written but didn't write. But if we'd had the data, we could. So that's partly because portfolio management is now such a big thing, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well.
You could talk program management, ENS in the that's been huge growth really, because it's created an efficiency that was technology enabled but data driven.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we're gonna in the next couple of weeks perhaps focus in on some of those sessions. I think, Ben, we're going to put together kind of an underwriting session with some of your contacts and data, and we'll give you a couple of previews, and in the links we'll put you in the direction of a couple of webinars that I've done, a couple of interviews as well, relating to elements, namely for this show, the core data record with Kirsten Duffield from Morning Data, which was really interesting. Kind of just, it's a 101 guide to what is it for, how should it be used, and then what do you need to think about to get on with it. So I'll put the link in the description as well. Okay, good. What are you doing this weekend, Ben? Anything good?
Oh, I'm going away.
Wow.
I'm going away. Yeah. I'm going to Lincoln.
I've never been there. No.
Well, I've been past it on a train. It's a famous Philip Larkin poem where sky and sea and Lincolnshire meet, I think it's called. That's one of the lines from it, I remember. Very flat.
Right. Okay.
It's supposed to be nice. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. I am going to go to Ludlow because my children are there. I'm going to pick them up and bring them home again.
Right. Are you going to see Phil? I
will, yeah. I'll pop in, say hello, and then depart. And there's a storm coming, so that's good.
Oh, do you know what it's called?
No.
Storm Benjamin.
Is it? Brilliant.
It's my own storm.
Is it, as it whirls around, does it go, don't change anything?
Stop moving the buttons.
Stop moving.
It is, yeah, it might be. I don't know. It's going to be pretty wet. I've got to go into London tomorrow, and it's going to be torrential rain, apparently, all night and tomorrow.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dark.
Yeah, we'll clear up then. Yeah, which should be good. And at some point we need to talk typewriters.
Okay.
Yeah, I bought a typewriter. That is the don't change things thing. I bought a typewriter.
Let's talk about that. Last week, I was only talking to my wife about this last weekend, and I did a pretty good impression of a typewriter.
You were talking about typewriters?
Yeah. Okay. It was. We were talking about typewriters and Tipex and.
Yeah, I'm going to get some Tipex. I've got that on my Amazon list. I hope they still make it. I don't know if they do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think they're coming back. It's a bit like vinyl. It's coming back. Typewriters.
Yeah, Tipex. Yeah.
I mean, I won't, spoil it. But one thing that is quite funny when you start using a typewriter is you cannot get it out of your head that you haven't got a button to do the return. Like that. You've actually got to go physically. It's really it's interesting, mentally interesting.
Yeah,
it's so physical. You don't realize how much we've lost in the physical realm.
Yeah, if I had a license, I'd now play the Woody Allen sketch where he's on the rowing machine. He's the executive rowing machine, and he can answer the phone and do weight training at the same time, which is brilliant.
Yes, Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we will get banned if we show that. Okay, good. Right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.